Hey guys, Dr. Sabretooth here, and today I thought I'd make a double video for you guys because for the last few weeks I've actually been wanting to do a remake of a sort of my first upload, Sonic Movie 2 predictions, and basically going through that video and seeing what I got right and what I got wrong. But when I sat down and recorded the audio for it, I realized that would be a really short 5-minute video. And not really wanting to upload a video so short for something as big as the Sonic Movie 2, I decided I would throw it in a double video of me basically reviewing the movie. I'll leave time codes for when the review starts just so you can skip to that if you're not interested in the following up of predictions. That being said, I am going to talk about the movie's plot and a lot of other details, so here's your spoiler warning right now. So yeah, come back when you've seen it. Now, with that being said, let's jump into my updated Sonic Movie 2 predictions. So in my original video, I stated that there was a report that Super Sonic was supposed to appear in the first movie. However, it was cut due to not being able to fit the Chaos Emeralds into the plot of the first one. And so, like everybody else, I naturally assumed that they were saving Super Sonic and the Chaos Emeralds for the Sonic Movie 2. And so, one of my predictions was that since the Chaos Emeralds would be in the movie, it was a safe bet that the Master Emerald could appear too. And obviously, you cannot have the Master Emerald without Knuckles. So yeah, technically one of my predictions was correct. I am by no means claiming to be one of the first people ever to predict Knuckles was going to be in the sequel, but I just felt like pointing out that that was one of the things from the original video that I actually got right. Now another character in the movie that we basically all knew was going to be in there was Tails. And if you remember my original video, my prediction was less about if he's going to be in the movie because we already knew that, and more about what he would be doing in the movie. And while I did technically get the guess right about him warning Sonic about Knuckles, basically everything else I said was just wrong, because the idea I thought of was that Tails would have encountered Longclaw and basically become an adoptive son similar to how Sonic was. And so that was one of the specific reasons that Tails was looking for Sonic. It would have also added to the whole thing of him knowing how to fly because he would have been raised by a bird, but you know, that's kind of not what they did at all. Tails just kind of grew up watching Sonic from a satellite basically, and then he learned about Knuckles and decided he was going to go warn him. So yeah, I was mostly wrong about what Tails was going to be doing in the plot, and that's honestly a bit of a shame because I don't mean to sound self-indulgent, but I feel like my plot idea was just a little bit better, mostly because it would have tied in to Sonic's backstory a bit better than just Tails appearing. Now, on the subject of other predictions I had, they were all basically flat out wrong. One of my main predictions was that Eggman would have used the quill he still had at the end of the first movie to power up Metal Sonic. And that didn't really happen. Come to think of it, the quill wasn't really used for much anyway. All he used it for was, like, getting the attention of Knuckles, and that's it. So yeah, there was no Metal Sonic. And because of that, my last shot in the dark character guess was Amy, and I only predicted that because I was dead set on thinking Metal Sonic was going to be in this movie. Now, a character prediction I didn't end up bringing up was Shadow the Hedgehog, and that is for one main reason. Like a lot of people, I assumed that the movie universe would loosely follow the continuity of the main timeline. And so I assumed that Sonic 2 would take heavy inspirations based off of Sonic 2. If they made a Sonic 3, it would be like Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic CD. But it seems like they're not really doing that because the post-credit scene features Shadow. And so because of this change in continuity, I actually didn't consider Shadow a possibility to be hinted at for Sonic 2. One of the other main reasons I didn't mention him is because he wasn't set up in the first movie, and the video was more of a prediction of how the plot of the sequel would go, and not planning way ahead for a third or fourth movie. Another aspect I didn't really delve into with the prediction side was the human stuff. And honestly, that's because I really didn't have any ideas of things I could predict with that. So yeah, that's basically all of the predictions I had from that original video. So if there's one thing you should know about me, you should know that the Sonic movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. Sure, a lot of other movies in my list of favorite movies are a lot better from a critical standpoint, but there's just a lot of personal connections that tie into the first Sonic movie that keep it at the #1 spot for me. So, needless to say, I was very excited for the sequel, and just how was the sequel to my very hyped expectations? It was really good, but its downsides really hold it back for me. That's the long and short of it. But if you want a full elaboration, well, just continue watching. I'll start with the positives because, oh my god, there is a lot to talk about with this. One of my first big positives is the fact that this movie, compared to the first one, feels a lot more like a Sonic movie than the first Sonic movie did. It's got a lot more of that Sonic energy. Got Sonic trash-talking and taunting all of his opponents. You have more game elements like the Chaos Emeralds, Tails and Knuckles, the Death Egg Robot, and motherfucking Super Sonic. As a Sonic movie, this is almost everything I could have wanted from it. It's just so fun to just watch Sonic doing Sonic things. And also, another great element is Sonic's design itself. I know it's the same design from the first movie, but something about the improved animation is just so much better looking with it. He's even more expressive, he can do even more cool action. He just feels more like how Sonic should be. It's probably something a lot of people who aren't that big into Sonic wouldn't care about or notice, but as a diehard Sonic fan, all of these small, minute details are just great. And also, Knuckles. Holy shit. After what feels like years of enduring nothing but comical goofball Knuckles, it is so nice as a fan to just see Knuckles back to being intimidating and taken seriously again. And even then, he has his comical moments, but it's not based around him being an idiot or him being easily deceived. It's based around him not really having proper social cues due to his backstory of living alone by himself for all those years. He actually has character traits. It's so fucking relieving to see that, because when it was announced that Knuckles was going to be in the movie, I was so worried they were going to ruin his character. But just like how they did Sonic in the first movie, they did Knuckles fucking justice in this. Sadly, the same can't exactly be said for Tails. But I'll save that more when I go into my negatives of the movie. But for now, I'll say that Tails, he's just a charming character to watch on screen. For starters, I love his movie design, how he's more plump and fluffy. And I don't know what it is, he's just charming. Plus, I gotta give them props for getting Tails' original game voice in there as well. They could have easily had Tails played by another big-name actor, but no, they actually got Tails' voice. And I know some people might complain, well, if Tails could get his original voice, why didn't Sonic? And while I like Roger Craig Smith's Sonic, I definitely think Ben Schwartz does a really good interpretation of Sonic, especially for the movie universe. Now, one thing I was actually surprised to see that I also liked was the appearance of GUN, which, if you don't know, is basically the government in the Sonic the Hedgehog universe in the games. Now, one change I actually did like was the fact that they were set up as a subsection of the government designed specifically for extraterrestrial-based stuff. That way, it didn't feel like they were just out of nowhere or leave you asking where they were in the first movie. And obviously, because GUN exists, Shadow the Hedgehog. That's all that really needs to be said, because holy shit, he looks so fucking badass in the post-credit scene. And honestly, I am really hyped for what they're going to do for him. Because if they can bring justice to a character like Knuckles, who for years has just been portrayed so badly in the Sonic games, I hope to God they can fix Shadow. But because it's so early after the movie's release, there's not a lot of info out. So for now, I'll just say Shadow looks so cool in this scene, but I don't really have any other thoughts outside of that. Now, there's not really much left I can talk about when it comes to the movie of things I like, because, like I've said, the only things I really liked in the movie were when Sonic was doing Sonic things. I like the scene where Sonic goes back into his room and he finds the feather left over from Longclaw, and we get a little scene of him missing her. And there was also that scene where he sees a hologram of Longclaw and gets to see her and hear her for the first time in years. And it was just a really sweet scene, honestly. And honestly, because it's one of my favorite scenes from the first movie, I absolutely love the callback to the baseball scene, where at the end of the movie, they're all playing baseball, but this time Sonic has friends and family, so he's actually able to play the game properly this time. And it just feels full circle. It's really sweet, you know? It's just nice. Unfortunately, those few moments are just that, moments. Because the one major problem I have with this movie is the fact that, compared to the first one, it doesn't seem to have the same emotional strength the first one did. Because outside of those few scenes, it's mostly just action comedy, which, granted, is really nice, and I love those, but the one thing I loved about the first movie was its emotional core, especially Sonic's struggle of living alone, because it was a very unique take for the character, and I think it was actually handled really well in that movie. And you can kind of tell that they were trying to do that with Tails, but they just didn't, because they left Tails to basically be the exposition machine and fly around. And that's where my biggest issue with Tails specifically comes in, because if his character was just thought out a bit more or had something to do, he could have basically been like Sonic in the first movie, and Sonic could have basically become like his wingman. So basically, Sonic and Tails could have had how movie 1 version of Sonic and Tom were, where on the outside, Tails is super cheery and optimistic, on the inside, he yearns for having friendships. Well, Sonic now has that, and could relate to him in a way, could have helped him through that, like how Tom helped Sonic through the first one. And they kinda do that, but it's just pushed to the side, and I feel like that has to do with some of the bad pacing that this movie had. Because, for the most part, I feel like this movie goes really fast and just trying to get to scene. And sure, when it gets to the scenes that's trying to get to really quickly, it's really sick with a lot of cool action. But, in trying to make this movie more fast-paced and energetic, I feel like a bit of the emotional core was lost along the way. Another thing that I feel like takes away from the Sonic experience of this is the human stuff, because you can just tell that after the first movie, they did not have anything to do for Tom, because he only appears for about 20 minutes at the max in this 2-hour movie, and it's all split up in 5-minute increments between the Sonic scenes. So that just felt really jarring that they would just cut away from Sonic stuff to show what Tom was doing, and it wasn't really anything adding to the story or plot at all. Now this wouldn't really be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that I feel like the human shenanigans were cutting into time that could have been spent developing Sonic and Tails' relationship. Because in the movie itself, it's fine, but it feels really underdeveloped because a majority of the movie focuses on Sonic, Knuckles, and occasionally cuts back to the human stuff. Tails, despite being in a lot of the marketing, and even having his two tails part of the 2 in the logo, feels just pushed to the side, and that's really sad because I feel like Tails as a character could have worked perfectly in the Sonic movie universe. But who knows, maybe in the third movie they'll get Tails right, hopefully. One other problem I have with the film that doesn't bother me too much, but it still bothers me to an extent, is a lot of the humor falls flat for me. Like, there are some jokes in the movie that are pretty funny, but it's less of the big gags and more of just stuff characters say to each other. But the actual jokes, oh, I found myself almost physically groaning at some of these, to be honest. And some of the pop culture jokes I didn't really like that much. Now, I do think there is a way to do funny jokes involving pop culture references. Look at something like the movie Scott Pilgrim. That has a shit ton of video game references, and they manage to be funny. But it's not really funny if it's just characters listing stuff. Like, I wasn't a fan of the running gag of the Death Egg robot being compared to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Like, it wasn't funny the first time, and it definitely wasn't funny the third time. So yeah, in general, I feel like the humor just fell flat for me for the most part, aside of the occasional quick gags that they had in there. But yeah, to basically sum up my thoughts, the Sonic stuff was amazing. I loved all the neat little callbacks. I love the action scenes. Knuckles was fantastic. I think Jim Carrey also did really good as Eggman. He was able to just ham it up, like, completely. But it still has some issues that really hold the movie back for me. So in my honest opinion, I'd rate this movie a 7 out of 10. Now the real question is, do I like this more or less than the first movie? Because, like I've been saying throughout this entire video, the Sonic movie 2 feels way more like a proper Sonic movie than the first one felt like a Sonic movie. But I think a small part of me still likes the first movie more. And that mostly boils down to the fact that I think the first movie is a slightly better movie from a critical standpoint. Plus, I have a good personal connection with the first movie that just makes me like it more. Now, that's not to say that I think it's way better, because trying to figure out which one I like has been so fucking hard to do. And at times, I would think that I like the second movie more, but then I'd go back to thinking about what I like about the first one that the second movie severely lacks in my opinion. So who knows? Give it a year, my opinion will probably flip again. Who knows? But for now, I'd still say the first movie is better, but I highly, highly recommend the second movie. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and you have a great rest of your day. See ya.